So you're probably wondering what the flip, the Cobus method is, and aside from sounding all mysterious and shizzle, it's actually just a way to explain my methodology and my approach to playing drums by ear, because I play drums 100% by ear. And I think it's intimidating to a lot of people. A lot of people think that it's hard to play drums by ear, that it's a skill that you need to have, and if you don't have it, then you can't learn it. It's like one of those things. But it's not that complicated or that intimidating at all. It's just a basic skill and a basic approach to music and to drumming and to actually any musical instrument that you can learn. You can learn it. It's really, really possible. If you know what I'm saying, if you can understand the words that are coming from my mouth, aside from the fact that you can understand the South African accent, it means you can understand English. You can speak the English language. And you didn't go to school to learn the English language, maybe not. If you're natively English, then you learned English from your parents or the people around you by ear, just by listening to them. And you were like friggin' 10 or 12 or 16, 18 months old, you were like a little baby. And if a little baby can learn the language, then what the flip? Come on. So if you can learn a language just by listening and repeating and knowing what things mean and repeating the same word to mean the same thing, then obviously you have the ability to learn things by ear, to take something into your brain and understand it and repeat it. And that's what this is about. So if I just say, this is a nose, and you heard me say it, what happens in your brain is you take the word and you kind of connect the word to a meaning. So N-O-S-E, nose, means this thing on my face. So that means now you can say, that's a nose. I know what it looks like. It's friggin' huge, I can't miss it, so that's what it looks like, that's a nose. And I didn't write it down. There's no on-screen instructions. It's not, you don't have a degree in understanding English. It's just, I just said, this is a nose, and you know what it means. That is the principle of all of this. Just being able to take a word, or a sound, or a phrase, or a groove, or a meaning, and to take it into your head, to understand it, and just to replicate it. And the next step after that is then to change it and to add stuff and to be creative. But the first basic part of all of this is just to be able to repeat a phrase, or a groove, or a sound, or a texture, or a sample, just to understand it and to repeat it. It's as simple as that. So what the Cobus method teaches is to listen. I think a lot of people miss this. I think the fact that drumming is so loud and that you can produce a lot of energy and a lot of volume from the kit, people kind of fall under the impression that like you make noise, and the more noise that you can produce, that's the better drummer or a better musician. But I think it's the opposite. I think the better you are at listening, the better musician you'll be. So hopefully this product will inspire, not kind of force it down on you, but just inspire you to want to listen and to hear and to use your ears, because that's the way that I play drums by ear. In addition to teaching you how to listen, we're also taking a really, really visual approach to this whole process. So while you're playing along to a song, if you've got the video or the website on your iPad, your iPhone, or maybe watching the DVD on your TV, there's a really, really visual approach. So on screen, there will be things that'll help you to know where to go dynamically, so louder or softer, or where to go in the song, or if you're still on metronome. So all that kind of information is on screen. The biggest one probably the biggest one for me is the fact that we have an indicator that'll show you what part of the song is coming up next. So if you're playing along to the verse, there will be an indicator when the chorus is approaching. There will be an indicator that'll show you that the chorus is coming down, it's going to drop down, it's coming, and then like it locks in on the downbeat, and then the chorus starts. So that's really cool. Even if you don't know the songs, if it's the first time that you're hearing the song, you'll be able to play the verse, the chorus, the verse, the bridge, whatever is coming, because it's all visual. You just need to look at the screen. Then there will also be a metronome on screen, so it'll be a count. So if you just look at the screen, the on-screen information, you'll know if you're still on time. So that's also a really good indicator. The other thing is a little indication of where to go dynamically. So if you're going from a verse to a chorus, then maybe you need to step up the energy, play a little bit louder. So that'll show you to step it up dynamically. Or if you're going from like a bridge into a soft chorus or whatever, to step it down dynamically, that'll show you what to do. So I think these three visual aids combined with the fact that you're listening to the music, I think that'll create a really clear image of what's going on. And I don't think it'll be intimidating. I think it'll be really easy. Even if you're hearing their song for the first time, I think you'll be able to play along, definitely. I think it's really important to note that these visual cues on screen are just to train you. They're just to train your ear how to listen and your mind to kind of know what's coming up. And at a later stage, if you're listening to some of your favorite tracks and you want to learn them and learn to play them by ear, you won't have these visual aids, but you won't need them because they're just to train your brain. So it's not an absolute necessity for the rest of your drumming career. I think it's just a really cool tool to train your ear and to show you visually what's happening, what's going on, because that's the way that I approach it. It really helps you to anticipate what's coming in the song and to even anticipate what kind of groove and what kind of feel is on the way. So all of this kind of stuff is just to train your ear and to make it more comfortable to kind of predict what's going to happen in the song. So on top of all the visual stuff and all the visual aids that'll help you to kind of anticipate what's going to happen in the song, I would be stoked to give you guys a foolproof system to dissect a song and to learn it piece by piece, part by part. So bass drum, snare, hands, toms, that kind of stuff. But it's really difficult in the beginning if your ear isn't trained, because you just hear this full mix and the full drumming track. But the cool thing is, if you kind of adapt to it and you train your ear well enough, you can just listen to the bass drum or just concentrate on the snare drum, just the toms. You can kind of extract the pieces that you want to zone in on and learn specifically. So it's a 5-step system, and if you follow all 5 steps consecutively, it's foolproof. You'll know exactly what the drummer is doing. You'll be able to zone in on the different parts and replicate them. So let's start with the bass drum. Step 1 is bass drum only, and the reason why I'm starting with the bass drum is because I feel it forms the foundation of the groove and of the beat and whatever you're playing. I think it kind of connects the drummer, which is exclusively rhythm, to the rest of the band via the bass drum, via the bassist. So I dig the fact that we're starting with the bass drum, because if you've got that locked down and you know what the drummer is playing with the bass drum, it kind of just connects the whole groove together. You'll see every single play along that I'm doing in this product has got 5 separate videos, one for each of these steps. So the first one is the bass drum, and if you check out that video, you'll see the video itself focuses heavy on the bass drum, so you can kind of see my feet and luckily not my hairy legs, but you can see exactly what I'm doing bass drum wise, and the mix will also be quite focused on the bass drum as well. It'll be a bit louder and a bit more pronounced and articulated, so you can hear exactly what I'm doing. So if you check out the video on the bass drum, just try to kind of get behind it and see what we're trying to do to teach you just the bass drum line exclusively. Now step 2 is just the snare drum, and it'll focus on the snare drum in the same way that step 1 focused on the bass drum. So visually, you'll see exactly what I'm doing on the snare drum, and audibly, it'll also be a bit more pronounced in the mix and it'll be a bit louder, so you can see exactly what's happening on the snare drum. It's really important to kind of take your time and go through the steps consecutively and really to take your time and kind of digest it and internalize it. If you jump ahead, it kind of just messes with the flow of things, and I think it's really important to build it from the ground up. Bass drum, snare drum. So just be patient and listen to it and kind of internalize it and know what's going on. So step 2 is just the snare drum. Step 3 is bass drum and snare drum combined. So we'll do a split screen setup so you can see what the bass drum is doing on the one side and what the snare drum is doing on the other side. I think this is really important for the feel of the groove and of the song. Don't even worry about the fills and all the fancy stuff like the ghost notes, all that. Don't worry about that right now. I think it's just important to use the bass drum and the snare drum both enhanced visually on screen and audibly. It's going to be a bit louder. Just use that to kind of get behind the feel of the groove. So this is the bass drum and the snare drum. Step 3. So step 4 is just the 2 hands. So we're going to drop out the bass drum and just focus on what the 2 hands are doing. If you're comfortable enough, you can kind of start messing with the fills and the ghost notes and stuff if you want to, if you're comfortable with that. But this is just to focus on what the 2 hands are doing apart from the bass drum. So step 4, just the 2 hands. So the last step, step 5, is just to put everything together and hear like a full band mix. The drums won't be buried inside the mix, but it'll just be like a normal radio mix of the song. If you went through all 5 steps and you kind of focus on the bass drum and then on the snare drum, on the hands, that kind of stuff, it's incredible how you'll hear whatever you want to hear. If you want to focus in on the bass drum, you'll hear exactly the bass drum. If you want to focus in on the snare drum, you can kind of do that now because you've heard it. If there's a specific part that you're struggling with, like the bass drum or the snare drum, I think it's really good to just go back to that step and just check out that video, focus on the bass drum, nail it, and then come back. But step 5 is just to put everything together and to see the whole picture. And if you're still struggling with a few folds or a few grooves, don't worry about simplifying it. That's totally okay. When I started playing drums, I totally butchered every song that I touched, and I just simplified them down to like the really basic version, but that's totally fine. Just play at your comfort level, and like I said, if you're struggling with anything specific, then just go through them again, maybe go to that specific video, but this is step 5, the full mix. Like I said previously, every single play along in this product will have these 5 videos available to you. So you can zone in on any specific part that you want to. I think this is such a cool way to get behind the song, to dissect the drumming, piece by little piece, bass drum, snare, hands, whatever you want to do. This is how I do it now. If I want to learn a new song, I just listen to the song. And because my ear is trained in this way, I can zone in on the bass drum or the snare drum or the bass guitar if I want to, or like the little melody section in the chorus if I want to. It's just incredible what you can do if your ear is trained to do that. So every video, every play along in this product will give you the option to zone in on those specific parts. I highly recommend that you use whatever you have nearby, whether it be an iPhone or an iPad or a laptop or a Mac, just to see what's going on, to use the visual aid, to look at what I'm doing with my feet or my hands while you're sitting behind the kit. It just helps it so much, it just helps your brain so much to connect what you're hearing and what you're seeing if you can actually see what's happening. So with that said, don't take it too seriously, don't be too hard on yourself, don't worry about playing the songs little note for note, stroke for stroke, ghost notes, don't worry about all that stuff. I think it's, for me personally, it's way more important to get behind the feel of the groove in the song. I think all these steps are wonderful, but like I said, don't worry about getting behind every single stroke. The feel is so much more important. This is such a cool system for me. I hope it works for you too.